to call the meeting to order for Planning Zone and Agriculture meeting for October 19th, 2022. Could we get a roll call, please, Kelly?
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Tholen? Ms. Peters? Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Dennell?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstrop?
Present.
Ms. Hudson? Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Present.
Mr. Gowler? Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Seroy? We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, first up we have public comment today. We got a few of those today. First up will be Mark Skowronski. Okay, try it. Can I get you to state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My
And
name is
then,
Mark. My name is Mark.
I got the mic on, but you got to get pretty close
Okay,
to
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
My name is Mark Skowronski. I live at 4988C North 14750 West Road, which is about 1 mile east of Essex. We're pretty much right in the middle of this development that's proposed for the solar farm. And 20 years ago, we petitioned the board for a special use permit for a residential landing area. We achieved that permit with, or agreed with that permit with the council, and also set in place covenants with an HOA and everything to govern that. What I'm asking the board for is basically a protection of that special use permit, because the way we laid out the our subdivision and everything, or our home lots, I should say, it's not really a subdivision, is the fact that we have to have certain clear pathways for aircraft to operate. So anything that the solar farm puts up that is aerial for whatever purpose may impede the use of our existing special use permit. So we would ask the board to recognize our existing special use permit and restrict any additional special use permits to honor our right of way through the airspace.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Mike O'Brien.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Michael Bryan. I reside at 895 Cobb Boulevard in Kankakee. I work at a local community bank here in Kankakee. We also have branches in Herscher and Dwight, so in the general area where the Heritage Prairie project is planned. I'm here today in support of the project for a couple reasons. Personally, I think it's really important. The additional commercial and business activity that it will generate in that part of the county and eastern Livingston County is significant. It will also generate significant additional revenue for the local governments in that part of the county, which is substantial as well. Education and fire protection, general public services in support of the residents there. And so for those reasons and many more, frankly, it's a great project, and the sooner the better. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next up be Mr. Nugent, Tim Nugent.
My name is Tim Nugent. I live at 140 South Poplar in Manteno, Illinois. I'm here as a representative of the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County, where I serve as president, to speak in support of the Heritage Solar Project in western Kankakee County. We work every day to try to bring new jobs and new investment into Kankakee County, and this project would bring hundreds of millions of dollars of investment into the county, create hundreds of construction jobs over the course of an 18-month period, and create permanent jobs, in addition to the taxes that it will generate not only for the county, but for the school district in the western part of Kankakee County. So again, this is what we continually do to strive to try to bring investment into the area. And when you have a company like Heritage that wants to come into our area, spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and generate a product that is in high demand, electricity, we are fast becoming a major electricity producer for the entire Midwest region. And Kankakee County is at the forefront of that, and I think that the approval of this project would send a great sign that we are definitely producing the products of the future, and electricity is one of the things that is definitely the thing that's in demand and that we need to produce more of. So we speak in support of this project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nugent. Okay, next up it would be Grant Hayden.
I'm Grant Hayden, 4988B North 14750 West Road in Essex. My concerns today, I just want to brought up what they're going to do to handle quality of life issues for the few houses that are being surrounded by this monster. We looked at the other solar projects in the area and they're 40 or 50 acres. This one's almost 3,000. So it's encompassing a lot of ground. They haven't covered anything they're going to do for screening out this thing, other than what we're going to put up fences and some plantings. That's not much of a description. They're adding some lighting. You know, it's in what used to be nothing. What are they going to do to shield this lighting? And the final thing is the trees and things out there. Are these going to be cut down and strip bald, or is it going to be actually somewhat covered so the appearance isn't so bad? Anyhow, that was all I wanted to know, is these quality of life issues for the people that are living out there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up will be Deborah Hayden.
I'm Deborah Hayden. I live with my husband, Grant, who just spoke. We have been very upset about this whole entire process because a year ago we went to Bonfield, saw their presentation, and then we heard nothing about it at all. We had one person come and wanted to go through the middle of our runway for an easement, and we said, no, we didn't want our runway tore up, and that's all we've heard until we went to the meeting last week. I just don't like how things were kind of developed without any input from us. We are going to be surrounded by all of this. I understand the solar thing. I'm not anti-solar, but I was born and raised in the country. I want to maintain my quality of life. I've worked many years to save money to buy this dreamland that I have, the runway, put in our home to retire there. And now I'm going to look out on my porch and sit on my porch and have my coffee in the morning and see solar. The trees are a big factor to me. I love birds. We have eagles. We have whooping cranes. We have, I mean, just numerous birds. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the turkeys and the deer that run up and down the runway. So I've spoke to them about some of the changes that we'd like. Move the setback along our runway so that they can do planting. I would hate to see the trees that have grown up out there be destroyed. It's very windy out there, and those trees do offer us a buffer. So that buffer, I would like them to promise to maintain. I don't want them to strip all the trees out. There was a farm or a solar farm going in Indianapolis, and many of their neighborhoods had the same issue. So they have tried to maintain the green space, the ditches, the trees, the bushes, and those are the kind of things that I really would hope that they would maintain. The country look, I mean, it's idyllic. I can sit there and look at the corn. I grew up with that. I wanted to maintain that. I'm not going to have that anymore unless they plant a row of corn in between our solar farm and our runway. Not going to happen. I would like to have some comments by you guys that you will tell them to try and maintain the country look of that area. And like I said, my husband and I went around and looked at all the smaller solar farms yesterday, took pictures. They're in the middle of fields. There's no house. One place had houses on each side that had trees already, a tree line already there. I don't want to lose my trees. I don't want to lose my country life. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next up is Mr. Patrick Young.
Patrick Young, 1500 West Road, Manteno, Illinois. Business representative for the operating engineers and president of the Kankakee Iroquois Building Trades. You've heard about some of the revenue that it's going to bring, the jobs, chance for apprentices to get out to work. We've been working, or I've been working closely with Heritage Prairie. They're going to use local contractors that employ local constituents. So Local 150 stands in favor of this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all we have for this morning. Okay, next up, everyone received their minutes in the email the other day, so can I get a motion to approve the, okay. We got Mr. Swanson with the first, And I forgot. Yes. Ms. Hudson with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, getting approval to, motion to approve the building report this morning. Okay, Mr. Eckhoff, Ms. Peters. Okay, any discussion? Delbert, ready to go?
Sorry. You have the building report for September 2022 in your packet. In September, we had 5 new homes, issued a total of 121 permits, and brought in revenue of $47,532. That is up from last year, 2021, or September 2021, where we only brought in 33,700. So we are up, looks like about 14,000 from last year.
The only one I have is the one on the front. Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Del? Okay, can we get a, Del, you need anything else?
No.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries, thank you. Okay, next up we have a zoning case, ZBA case 22-01, a request for a special use permit, section 121-99C34, solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on parcels generally situated in northwest Kankakee County, east and south of Essex and Salina townships. The petitioners are referenced within the legal notice as Heritage Prairie Solar LLC. Oh, we get a motion to
Should have been the first one.
motion to approve. Mr. Wheeler, get a first, get a second. Okay, Mr. Alexander. Okay, discussion.
All right. This is a request for a 300 megawatt solar energy facility located in Essex Township and a little bit of Salina Township. We had a public hearing on October 6, 2022. There is a multitude of information on this project, and my speaking about it would likely not do it justice. So we have asked the applicants to give a brief presentation of the overall project, same as they did at the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. So Mr. Stryker, who is be giving that presentation.
Okay, let the board know we won't ask any questions, okay?
I will take questions after, but they should be
we get all
directed
done.
to me and not the consultants.
The questions should be directed at Del here. Questions should be directed at Del after the presentation, okay? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Delbert, members of the board, we do have a couple of project representatives today that have prepared a brief presentation.
Sure.
So, Alan, John. This is John Kuba, and he'll start us off.
Would you prefer them to be up here?
Sure.
You guys want to
Anyway,
use
they
this
can see 'em.
microphone so everybody doesn't have to turn around?
Yeah.
You do have a copy of the presentation we handed out this morning.
Delbert, who's running the slideshows?
Kelly is.
Okay,
So just,
great. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is John Kuba. I'm Director of Environmental Affairs for ConnectGen. ConnectGen is one of the developers working on the Heritage Prairie Solar Project. I'm very excited to be here today. As Delbert mentioned, we provided a lengthy presentation before the ZBA 2 weeks ago. The presentation that myself and colleague Alan Wynn will provide will be kind of a truncated version. We'll try to be brief. We know there's a lot of information, so we'll hit the high points. The information that we're providing in this slide deck that you have before you is consistent with the information provided during that ZBA hearing. So the Heritage Prairie Solar Project is a joint venture between Pattern Energy and ConnectGen LLC. It's an exciting opportunity to come together between these two organizations, bringing two leading U.S. renewable energy companies to develop an important project here in Kankakee County. The key foundation of this JV is our ability to leverage a very strong and robust project team, as well as our capability to execute and actually bring this project to fruition. We are a company that JV that combines two companies with many decades of experience developing, constructing, operating renewable energy projects across the U.S., including here in Illinois. And then the JV leverages a fully integrated team, including engineering, commercial offtake, financing, environmental, as you have here represented today, all within our internal organization. So we have the strengths and capabilities to bring this project to fruition. Next slide, please. Okay, this next slide, it provides a brief overview of the Heritage Prairie Solar Project, and I'll touch on a couple of key points. I know there's a lot of narrative to the slide, but I'll hit the main points. So Heritage Prairie Solar is a proposed 300 megawatt commercial scale solar project. It is sited and located in the northwestern portion of the county, just east of Essex, in the Essex and Salina townships. The reason we selected this area is for a couple of reasons. One, a very strong solar resource, especially a solar resource in here in the northern part of the state where you are close to load in both Kankakee County and the greater northern Illinois area. The land use in the area is compatible. It's existing agricultural land. You have a county ordinance that allows for solar under a SUP, and the existing land use is consistent with what you would look for in developing a solar project. And then lastly, and importantly, the location near or directly adjacent to two existing transmission lines. So there's a great location to interconnect to the grid to deliver this power. Project development started in 2018. We've been very active in the community over the last 4 years as we work to develop this project. The total project area is approximately 1,600 acres, 1,675 acres to be more precise. That is the area that is actually going to host the project facility. Now, we have lease land parcels that total over 3,700 acres. However, that's not the full area that will be developed, only roughly 1,600 acres. I mentioned the key point of interconnection here. That is kind of the reason, one of the reasons why we're sited where we're at. There are two existing lines that cross. These are two ComEd 345 kV lines, so they're high capacity lines, and they offer a great opportunity to interconnect. We have existing interconnection queue positions with PJM, including AE1 166 and AE2 152, each of those allowing us to interject 150 megawatts of the project. So that brings the total nameplate capacity to 300 megawatts. On the community outreach front, just want to note, I mentioned being in the community since 2018, including active engagement with community leaders, stakeholders, landowners that ultimately host the project. We have a Heritage Prairie office set up in Herscher that's been active the last several years, and then you heard earlier today we hosted a public meeting in December of last year in which we opened our team up to the public to gather feedback from stakeholders within the project area. Next slide, please. Just a brief touch on the benefits of this project. This is a significant investment in Kankakee County. The total cost to develop, construct, and operate the project is estimated between $400 and $500 million. So that is a significant amount of money that we're investing in this county as part of the project. We will ultimately refine that cost estimate based on final design and present that as part of the building permit stage. But this investment results in brings significant jobs as well as revenue streams to the county. On the jobs front, I just want to highlight that we have coordinated with various trade organizations, included the Local 150, LIUNA, and IBEW, to come to an MOU that requires Connection and Pattern as part of the JV to hire an EPC general contractor that will develop a project labor agreement with these trade organizations that ensure labor will be involved in this project. One other item to touch on this slide is just the tremendous contribution this project provides to Illinois state goals on renewable energy. So obviously consistent with the CEJA, this project will produce enough power to power roughly 60,000 or 61,000 homes. Next slide, please. So the county code establishes design standards that we must follow in order to meet the requirements to receive a special use permit authorization from the county board. We have followed those standards and incorporated those standards in the design of this project. This slide highlights some of those standards. I would say I'll kind of go through some key ones that I think are worth noting, but I'd also go on to say that we, in various cases, we've gone above and beyond the standard requirements to cite this project in consideration of our host landowner concerns, but also potential concerns from the community and concerns that we heard from the community. So foundations, these are your traditional I-beam style foundations that will be driven steel piles. We're not concreting the area, although you heard, it's over 1,600 acres of land to host a facility. We're not laying concrete in this area. These are driven piles that will be driven in the ground and can be pulled out upon reclamation restoration. The only areas where there would be any concrete are at substation location, switching station location, and then maybe some concrete for fence posts associated with the security fencing around the module areas. On the communications, or power, electric collection and communication lines to move power from the module areas where the PV essentially produces the energy and transmits to the collection line and the point of interconnection. All those lines will be buried underground. They will be buried in accordance with our landowner agreements as well as an AIMA that's been negotiated with the Illinois DOA. Height of panels will be a max of 7 feet. We are proposing a single axis tracking system. So this is the panels will move throughout the day. At the highest point, when the sun's on the horizons, the tip of the panel may be 7 feet in height. However, they will be mounted at 4 feet. So midday, they'll be more, lower elevation or lower height. The highest piece of equipment within these module arrays will be inverter locations, and those are roughly 10 feet in height. We followed all the county setback standards, 100 feet from the front of all property lines. So meaning anywhere where we abut a road, public road, we have a setback minimum 100 feet, 50 feet from all sides. And then for those parcels that have a residential structure on them, we have cited 100 feet from all sides of those. Fencing, we will have all the module areas will be fenced, and this is for security reasons. The county code requires it. In this case, we will meet the county code requirements, and we've also proposed an agricultural style fence. This is something that we've been trending to more toward as both of our companies and then generally as an industry. When you're in agricultural areas, it just makes sense to use fencing that is more consistent with the agricultural environment and feel character of the community. So that's why we propose an agricultural style fence here. On the screening front, again, screening is one of those aspects that is not required within the building permit or building code or solar ordinance. However, we have reviewed the project area, looked at areas where potential visual could be a concern, and incorporated screening as part of our landscape and veg management plan. With that screening, we've taken a bit of a unique approach where we've looked at individual areas that maybe you have more likelihood of having a receptor or somebody that is looking at the project while they're in the vicinity, whether that's at a residence or following county roads. And those are the areas where we propose screening. We've included over 61,000 linear feet of screening for this project. That screening will also comply with Illinois DNR pollinator-friendly solar program and their guidelines on a specific species of plants. So we were planting natives that essentially provide a habitat resource rather than your traditional, evergreen planting that doesn't provide as much habitat value. Lighting, the project will not have lights in the module areas. The only area where there will be lights is at the substation and switching station locations, which is frankly a requirement of National Electric Safety Code. So there will be lights there. However, those lights will be downward facing and shielded. So there should not be any off-light or off-site penetration of light from those facilities. I'll skip the next couple to keep going. Next slide, please. So this next slide provides the proposed site plan. This is the design of the project. I'm sure everybody has the very thick 3-inch binder. There's some more detailed design drawings in that binder that kind of look at the project site plan in a bit more detail. But just to kind of walk through this, this provides kind of a view of the siting and design of the project within the Salina and Essex townships. The project footprint includes a little over 1,600 acres, which is about 44% of the land area covered by these parcels, which we're seeking SUP permit on. So we are not by any means using the entirety of the parcels, only portions of those parcels that were best suited based on a couple of criteria. And those criteria and our ultimate design was really based on an opportunity and constraint consideration for design of a project like this. We work with the host landowners to understand their land use of these areas. We do various environmental and engineering study to understand sensitivities. Where can we put panels? Where can't we? Where could there be an impact either on the parcel itself or off-site the parcel? Look to avoid those areas. And then we also look at opportunities. What are features in the area that could be considered in the design to help minimize the overall impact? And that's how this site design came together, is leveraging those different aspects. And one of the things that you'll notice when you start looking at the site plan in more detail is there are a lot of natural features in this area that in fields that are a bit smaller and farmed kind of based on contours that result in the project being a bit more dispersed, spread out, and also shielded by certain features. A great one that you can kind of see running north to south through the area is the Horse Creek riparian watershed, which provides a pretty big barrier between certain areas. I also should mention the screen planting. So we propose over 60,000 linear feet of screen planting. This is a 30-foot wide buffer that will be built on the outside of the fence, so it screens both the fence as well as the modules within the fence. And there are quite a few hedgerows, forested areas, forested tracks where you can see we did not site solar panels. We are not clearing those. We are leaving those intact in place and won't be, essentially won't be touching those for our purposes. There may be certain areas where we have a collection line or an access road that may need a small linear right-of-way to be cleared, but for purposes of hosting modules, we're not clearing those forested tracks or those hedgerows. Same thing on the drainage front. You'll see a lot of kind of openings within this module area, and a lot of those account for drainage considerations to maintain the existing drainage in this area. All the electric collection lines will be buried, and we've tried to consolidate those. There's a pink, some pink lines on the design map. Those represent the underground collection system. In most cases, those are all consolidated on kind of one route, so we minimize the direct disturbance or ground disturbance there by limiting the installation to certain areas. And then lastly, just to touch on the interconnection. So from our substation, we do have to connect to the that point of interconnection, which is the meeting point of those two ComEd lines. We will need a little over 1 mile GEN tie line, a 345 kV GEN tie line to go from our substation to that interconnection. You heard earlier there is a recreational property nearby, and that's why we have proposed to underground the portion of the GEN tie in the vicinity of that property to minimize the impact there. And next slide, please. This last slide is very similar to what you just saw, but it only shows the module areas. And the reason I want to highlight this is we have proposed to use a LONGi 540 watt panel for this project, and that's how the project is currently designed. As is the case, as we refine the design, we may select a different module type, different module manufacturer. In all cases, it will be a tier 1 manufacturer produced module that is also bifacial. and we think it will, the final design associated with the building permit will be consistent with the site plan that we provided here today. However, if we have the ability to microsite a little bit within these module arrays, we may be able to reduce the footprint a bit, but in all cases, the module areas that we will site in as part of our final design will be within these locations that have been presented in the application. All right, with that next slide, I will introduce Alan Wynn, a colleague with Pattern.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alan Wynn. I'm Director of Environmental at Pattern Energy, John's counterpart in the joint venture. Just wanted to briefly touch on some additional points. John talked about how we conduct a series of engineering and environmental studies. Started out with 3,700 acres. We conduct these studies and we narrow down the most appropriate places to build the actual facilities. So some of the things we studied as far as environmental studies: wetland delineations, cultural resources, threatened and endangered species, raptor nest surveys. We've done a sound analysis, a glare analysis, and we've prepared a landscape and vegetative management plan to show where we would do the screening. Also, we're proposing 100% pollinator-friendly planting and native species plantings within the module areas themselves. Again, a natural resource inventory report has been prepared by the County Conservation District as well. And the image on the right hand of the screen shows some of the proposed screening options that we are proposing to do on the outside of the fence. Next slide, please. We've coordinated the project with numerous agencies, including the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. We've met with them about the project. It's been formally through their EcoCat process. We've met with the Fish and Wildlife Service about the project, and we're complying with all federal laws and regulations. Again, the Kankakee County Soil and Conservation District prepared a natural resource inventory report and issued a no opposition letter in January 28th, 2022. Again, we have an AMA executed with Illinois Department of Agriculture, and we've worked closely with the Kankakee County Planning Department as we prepared our SUP. I'll briefly run through the findings of facts as was presented in the application and at the ZBA hearing. We're complying with Kankakee County Code. We're complying with National Electric Code. Facilities will be fenced and warning signs posted. Again, the project will contribute to $44 million in property tax revenue, 23.8 in school district revenue, and 2.8 million in township property taxes over the life of the project, including 150 new jobs during construction. The project is an emission-free source of renewable energy that can power up to 61,500 American homes annually. As far as the character of the neighborhood, solar has been contemplated as a suitable use in the agricultural district. This meets the spirit of the 2030 comprehensive plan. Again, these acres will be used as a renewable energy source for 30 years. Upon the end of the life of the project will be decommissioned, and this acreage could immediately be put back into agricultural use. We've worked with landowners to maintain certain areas for agricultural production, so there will be agricultural production still ongoing around the facility. We're implementing an agricultural style fencing and again a native vegetation screening to help retain the characteristics of the area. Along with this and the AMA, we feel that this allows this area to rest. The soil will be very, very much suited to return to agricultural production upon the end of the life of the project. There'll be no direct physical impacts to any adjacent properties. Again, over 60,000 linear feet of vegetative screening proposed. We will meet all the Illinois Pollution Control Board and Kankakee County sound standards. Traffic, there will be some increased traffic during construction. It will be temporary. We're going to prepare a traffic control plan in coordination with the Kankakee County Highway Department, and we'll have road use agreements with the townships and the county. Environmental concerns, I spoke to that briefly, but we've coordinated with various agencies. We've done a suite of environmental studies to try to minimize and design a project that minimizes impacts to the most extent practicable. Next slide. Briefly, this is a proposed construction schedule. We're showing construction starting in March of '24, and these are the different segments of construction: the site prep, mechanical installation, inverter installation, and then the AC and DC electrical module installations, and then plant commissioning and demob wrapping up in December of 2025. Next slide. Decommissioning and restoration. Decommissioning plan was provided as part of the SUP application. The obligations are largely governed by the project AMA and the individual lease terms with our property owners. Again, most materials are recyclable and largely constructed of recyclable components. Materials that cannot be salvaged would be transported and disposed of properly. All decommissioning and disposal activities will be conducted consistent with applicable laws. And again, the land would be immediately able to be returned to agricultural purposes after all facility installations have been removed. Financial assurances will be provided to the county, updated every 3 years as part of our obligations. We hired a property value expert, Cone Resnick, to do a study of property values, and based on their examinations of other solar facilities in other parts of the country in similar locations, they concluded that there was no consistent negative impact on property values. Conclusions have been confirmed by academic studies. This report is in the SUP package, and one thing that they noted that property values tend to correlate with good school districts, and this project will be providing $23.8 million into the local school districts, which is consistent with their findings. And that is it for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
You guys all done? Okay. Thank you for your presentation there. It's very timely.
ZBA before we go to questions. I'll talk about what happened at ZBA.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna go over how the ZBA meeting went. Dell's gonna give us a brief overview of how the meeting went.
This went to public hearing on October 6th at the library across the street. There was a public comment period, and we had several members of the public speak. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14 members of the public spoke at that. The Zoning Board of Appeals provided their findings of fact, which are in your packet, that shows their belief that this project does meet all of the standards for issuing a special use permit. And they voted 5-0 to recommend approval. There are 3 conditions that they placed on it, which 2 of them are our standard conditions. Ground cover shall be planted with native pollinator-friendly species, which the applicants are already saying they're going to do. All required landscaping shall be subject to the maintenance requirements and penalties prescribed in the weed and grass control plan, which they've provided a weed and grass control plan already. And 3, an 8-foot tall agricultural style fence shall be permitted in lieu of the required chain link fence as specified in the applicant's site plan. So that is what happened at the Zoning Board of Appeals. They do recommend approval and believe that the project does meet all the standards for that approval.
Okay. Thanks, Dell. Anyone have any questions for Dell? Ms. Peters.
Mr. Chairman, I'm for this project. It does have a lot of benefits, even though there are a few cons, but it is mostly beneficial to our area. I did have a couple questions. The airfield right-of-way, what considerations have taken place to protect that?
I don't know that there are any. It's on private property. That property is not being used by the solar farm.
Right.
These are 7 feet to 10 feet tall on the site. I'm not sure how that would affect airplanes.
Okay. I do have a couple questions. So the trees, he talked about not removing trees in the actual footprint. I do have someone who did complain to me about the solar farm next door to her, they took down the trees, which was fine, that was their right to do, but then they asked her to take down her trees and offered her money to do that, but, and that was after the solar panels were up, so I hope that they don't do that, because people do appreciate their trees, and that's, if they're already on their property, that's what they wanted. Acres, all right, you answered that question. While we have the experts here, would it be possible to ask them, this comes up every single time we talk about solar farms, how come the big warehouses don't put them on their roofs or in the green spaces around them, or even in the parking lot? I think people would park under them. So I don't know, would that be appropriate to ask?
No, because it did not come up at the hearing, but I can state that those are all private entities and have the opportunity to do so if they would like to.
Okay.
Okay, that is entirely a different subject, though.
I understand, but we had experts here. I thought I would ask them if there was a
know.
reason they wouldn't be able to do that. And then, is there any possibility of expansion later on? Would they come back and say, we want to add, or is it limited by the ComEd lines that are there, the two that cross?
I think there's two different parts of that question.
Okay.
The special use permit is just for these properties. Could it be expanded later? Of course it could be. They would have to come back through the same process again for any additions.
Okay.
Okay. Are there limits to the capacity of the ComEd lines? I am not an electrical engineer, but I'm sure there are. I don't know what that limit would be.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Yes.
My big question was, they talk about how many acres that they're leasing, but when you look at the footprint and it's only 1,675, that's quite a difference between, when people talk about, oh my gosh, they're going to take, 4,000 to 5,000 acres out of production. That's not actually the case.
They're
correct?
leasing the entire properties.
They're leasing,
but
right.
not using the entire
Correct.
property.
Okay, thank you. And if we do know that having the solar panels there acts as a sponge to take in excess water, and that it's not a runoff flooding kind of risk. So I did want to mention that's been talked about before. So that's a positive that I like, and that it could be returned to production in the 30 years. So thank you.
Mr. Kirkster, way in the back.
Yeah, way in the back.
Yeah.
Yes, now, I don't know whether you can answer this question or not, or whether we'll have to go back to our presenters and ask that question. But I'm looking here under project benefits that we have here, and I'm very much in favor of these projects. I think it's a good thing for every resident in our county. But when we're talking here about the labor that's going to be on these projects, the skilled, qualified, and certified labor that we have in this county, I do not see all represented here. And these people live in the county. They unfortunately can't always work in the county, but whatever money they do make stays in this county. These projects here, they should get a benefit for it, for living and working in this county. I don't see where they're represented here. If anybody would like to answer that question.
Well, this was talked about at the hearing.
Yes.
There are various trades. They intend to use local labor, so I'm not sure which ones aren't being included. I'm not sure that they need all different trades either. It's so I don't know if there's carpenters are needed or not. I imagine there are a little bit of all of them, so I don't know. The actual contractors that'll be doing that would be at the time of building permit, when they do their contractor registration is when that would be occurring. I can go back to the applicants if you can keep it to what was said at the hearing. If you guys have anything you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'll try to answer it. Stay consistent with what was discussed at the ZBA hearing. I believe at the ZBA hearing, we mostly referenced the Tri-Trades MOU. So that MOU commits us and ultimately our engineering, procurement, and construction contractor, or the general contractor that we hire, to enter into a project labor agreement with the trades. Now, we definitely hope that the trades are able to provide labor from Kankakee County. That is always a preference. However, I can't speak at this time that they are absolutely going to come from Kankakee County. Ultimately, we need several.
Excuse me, but I understand that. But my emphasis is not just on the residents of Kankakee County, but also for the state of Illinois.
Understood. Yep. And I think it's our preference that those laborers come from Illinois, and I mean Illinois's got a great labor pool. Obviously, the Tri-Trades group, the different trades groups, are going to pull folks from the area best suited for their deployment to the project. So with several hundred laborers needed during the construction, that 2-year construction period, we do envision a significant amount of those will be local. So I hope that answered the question.
Also referring to the skilled craftsmen.
Correct.
Okay.
I think we're going to do an MOU. Yes, yeah, it kind of goes back to the having the MOU in place with the Tri-Trades and general contractor being bound by that project labor agreement to ultimately hire those individuals.
You're saying you have sat down and discussed and had negotiations with all the skilled crafts that are essential to make sure that these projects are installed and up in operation and on time and on budget, so on and so forth?
Yes, we've had with the 3 groups that I mentioned earlier. There may be other trades out there, but that aren't as part of that aren't signed on to the MOU. But that doesn't preclude them from working and participating in the project or being involved in future labor agreement.
Or are you involved in them, or is the company involved in them, or are you saying if they step up that they can be involved?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I've not been directly involved in the MOU negotiation, but members of our company have been.
Okay.
The company's directive is to the general contractor or balance of plant contractor. This will be a union project. Mm-hmm. The contractor then goes out and inspects the trades.
And all concerned have contacted your company and you sat down and discussed with them?
Yes, we have had conversations with all that have contacted us. That's correct.
They got it, Larry. Okay, Colton, Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number 9. Thank you. So a part of the conditions number 3. So instead of a required chain link fence, what's the agricultural style fencing that you're talking about?
It's a woven steel fence, kind of like what you'd see around a farm field, 8 feet tall. All right. Generally, usually wooden posts, not chain link, not barbed wire.
Okay, thank you. I just need clarification.
It seems to be more popular out there, and the surrounding property owners seem to like it better too.
Okay.
Small animals can transfer in and out too, stuff like that. So
we have a couple of them in the county that already have that type of fence.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't recall if it was mentioned, but will there be any battery storage on this facility? And if so, will there be any indemnification to the county or landowners for any issues that may arise with battery storage?
There's no battery storage that I am aware of.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To start with, I'm for the project, but question for Dell. I don't know if I didn't catch it or it wasn't brought up. Is there a bond with the increased construction traffic on the roads to repair roads at the end? I know in the Irwin-Herscher area, one of the last ones we did, it was $1 million plus to replace a road. So this seems, and that was 1/10 of the size of this.
The road use agreement has to be completed before issuance of the building permit. Part of that agreement will be a bond of some sort to guarantee that the roads get repaired if they are damaged.
Okay, I just want
That
to make sure I
agreement has
didn't
not
miss it.
been written yet. I do know that they are working on it. I talked to the attorney, so they, County Highway has an attorney now that is working on that, so that'll come at the time of the building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next up, Ms. Foster.
Thank you. I have two questions. Are the residents, will they be getting a rebate from ComEd because the solar plant is there in their community?
No.
Okay.
Now, this is a private entity that will be selling power.
So they don't get any type of rebate as far as their ComEd utility bill?
No.
Okay. The other question, as far as the panels, are they going to be tilting or are they going to go up and down?
They tilt. It's a tracking system, so it starts out in one direction, and throughout the day it just incrementally rotates to grab as much sunlight as it can. Then it resets overnight.
Okay.
Very, very slowly. It's like watching paint dry.
Okay, Mr. Snipes. Oh, sorry, Andy.
Generally, when I am considering these particular projects, money generation will fall short considering the public health and the concerns of the citizens in that particular area. So one of the things I basically look at is whether or not the people had the opportunity to have a hearing. And after I read the document, that is the case. I believe that we fall up under the 6 standards for analysis under section 1703 F4, which is dealing with the special use permit, correct?
That is correct.
And so as a result, we are limited to the scope of that particular review. So when I parallel the concerns of the community, whether positive or negative, I kind of parallel them to this particular section of the special use. We looked at the right of way, and we say that it's within the normal region of 7 to 10 feet. I looked at Paul and Dreas, who says, what money will the county have to spend since the county is broke? We would have to negate that because the chairman has just already elucidated that the county's health has restored. So I don't know where they got the county is broke from. However, or bankrupt, excuse me, is the term they use. Not broke, but bankrupt. So the county is not bankrupt. You look at some of the other, because we want to make sure that we're taking into consideration when we vote on this, the concerns of the people. About 15 people spoke. I read their comments. I see nothing in the comments that that would suggest, I heard that their friends told them, but we have to deal with experts in this particular area. So we lean upon our zoning committee to examine all of this, open up the doors for the public comment, and it appears all of that has been done. I have not heard any objections from the county board member that represent that area at this particular time. So there was nothing that bars us or the county board from approving this particular venture. It appears that from all of the concerns, even the concerns this morning, that they were not notified, but if they had a hearing, someone had to be notified. So whether or not you read the notification or not is subjective and is moot at this particular point. So we don't take it lightly. I read the brief narrative that you all submitted. And if I'm here in 90 some years, when they resort this back, I won't mind buying vegetables off the property. So with that being said, the security, the health, someone also mentioned about the animal safety. It appears from the narrative that we have before us and reading through here that animals will not die because this project is here. In fact, it says of all energy projects, Solar projects have some of the lowest impacts to the property value. So the property value here has also been considered. So the due notice required by law has been the EOC, the unions being local to the extent that they can use them has been addressed. So at this particular point, I have no objections, in my opinion, unless something just steps out that I missed to approving the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seiss. Mr. Wheeler?
I don't think I have much to add. Thank you.
Just a note, all legal requirements for notification were met on this project.
Right back at you.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Peters, second time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to bring up the LISA score, the 199 figure that was used, is that an average number of the farms?
Yeah, it's a totality of the entire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I only had one, Dell.
Mr. Long.
No, Mr. Long. Okay, but he's not Mr. Long today. No, he's over here. 11. Okay.
So, Mr. Skimmerhorn and I have had a couple of conversations about properties such as this out in the county, specifically out in my area, where there's like 12 telephone poles sitting out front in a cascade of electronic equipment that's hanging in the air, and a patch of what we call mare's tail that we fight on the farms every day. And what I'm hearing in this group is they care about what the neighbors think, that the cabling is buried. Is that my understanding, that the connection is between all of these is buried so that it's not up in the sky? We don't have to farm around them?
In this instance, even the Gentai, which is the grouping of poles that you've discussed, is actually underground.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I think that we can use maybe their model, or as we see them build their project, maybe we can use that to change our standard in our community so that it is more hospitable to the local environment and not the eyesore that we got going on 2000 Road and 1000 Road South in my area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Snipes, second time.
And the other two things I wanted to mention is that when I looked at the $400 and $500 million project, I do also know that's probably the projected cost, and then they're probably going to refine the cost along the lines of more the actual cost later. But one of the caveats I do like, because I deal with education, is that 23 million will be going back into your school systems and so that's a boost to your education. Hopefully that they will one day run and have jobs when it comes to in their community, and they'll be prepared for jobs. So education is always important to me as far as that's concerned. So that's a caveat that I thought was a reinvestment into the community, whether they didn't have to mention it, but they did. So there's a give back into your particular community along with the people that are working. Anytime we can put people to work, anytime we can generate revenue, and then something that's going to go for the long term, 30 years, I think it's, and there's no barriers as far as public health is concerned. I think it's a step in the right direction. I do know that the aggregate amount of land is a concern, but even that was addressed, that the land will be back in operation day one after the decommission, if they so choose at that particular time. So.
Okay, thanks. Del, I had a quick question. Did they ever mention where the manufacturer of these panels is coming from, or where they're going to be where they're located, or are they going to bid it out, or are they going to do what they can do to try to keep this a little USA, or how's that going to go?
They have a type of panel at this point, but the panels have not been purchased yet because they have no approval. So where they might be manufactured at is not clear at this time.
So that never came up in the 2 meetings
there
we had?
was some discussion. I know there were some questions from the public on it. And the answer I gave you is the answer that was given, is that until the project gets to the building permit stage, they really don't know exactly who the manufacturer of the panels will be.
So it'd be like a regular project where they probably start bidding things out, and whoever comes up with the best number or the best product, that's the way it's gonna go. It's not gonna be a born in USA type thing?
That's an internal private issue with that company, where they get their panels from.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is in regards to any threatened or endangered or protected species on that project site. On October 6th, I toured the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Refuge in Iroquois County. It's 66 acres, and it has 17 threatened and endangered species on that site. And if we're looking at 1,675 acres of project site, I find it unusual that there aren't any threatened or endangered species in that area. Raptors were surveyed, but I'm not sure what was found. But raptors include hawks, falcons, owls, vultures, and I think we've heard public testimony that there's eagles been found in that area. Was it, Del, can you remind me, was it found that there were no threatened or endangered species in this area?
Within the project area. The project itself. Doesn't mean there aren't any in the area. It means that none that would be affected by this project.
Okay.
So no nests were found within these properties. I think there's an ornate box turtle that is a endangered species in that area, and they found no evidence of them being on any of these properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next I think we about got it here. We have you have anything, Kelly? First and a second, okay. So we have our motion on the floor. All in favor, huh?
Yeah, can be.
No roll call or nothing, huh? We do it. Okay. Motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Oh, okay. Mr. Dunn. Okay, thank you everyone for coming out, and who's up next? Okay, I got me, Dell's on, me's on, okay, everything's on. Start over again. Oh, okay. Okay, next up is ZBA case 2214, request for a special use permit number 14, fertilizer sales in the A1 agricultural district and a variance to section 121-99C14, distance from existing dwellings, on a parcel generally situated in section 11 of Manteno Township. The petitioners are Roger L. Hoop and Robin L. S. Medina, and property owners are Growling Solutions Incorporated applicant. Okay, Dell, get a motion in a second. Okay, Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Swanson, first and a second. Thanks. Okay, Dell.
All right. This is a request for a special use permit on a 1.1 acre portion of a 77 acre farm located at 3756 East 11,000 East Road. That should be North Road in Manteno Township. The special use, purpose of the special use is for a liquid fertilizer blending and storage facility. Growing Solutions Incorporated would like to lease the building outlined in red and some outdoor ground area to move their liquid fertilizer blending operation to that location. Had a public hearing on this on October 11th. There was no public comment. The Zoning Board of Appeals voted 5-0 to recommend the approval of the special use permit, and they did not put any conditions upon its approval. The liquid blending is an agricultural product, and I'm no chemist, but it's mixing water, sulfuric acid, and urea together to create a fertilizer project.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Del on this one? We all live in the ag area. Craig? No? Okay. Mr. Kirchner.
Yes,
I'm looking for it again. I went over it and I just glanced at it. Is there a variance in here as far as distance from the from residents?
Yes, I am sorry. I skipped that. Fertilizer operations are required to be, by our ordinance, to be set back 1,000 feet from the nearest residence. There's a residence up there, kind of in the middle, north of the map there. And that residence is only about 500 feet away from this building. That's correct. The owner of that residence was at the hearing, wasn't public comment because they actually testified with the applicants that they had no issues. Right. So the variance was also recommended for approval 5-0. Thank you. I had forgotten about the variance.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, barring none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Okay, it says solar farm special use permit discussion, Dell.
Okay.
That's out there.
At the last county board meeting, one of the members questioned whether the county could limit the amount of acreage taken out of farmland production for solar farms, or limit the total number of solar farms that the county could approve in the future. I've included in your packet a memo of the staff's opinion on those questions. I don't believe we can. It's part of the ordinance, and if the standards are met, everyone has the right to apply for that special use permit. So and then each permit must be judged on its own merits. By setting any type of limit prior to public hearing, you are basically judging it, prejudging the application before it's ever even heard. So I don't believe you can. That being said, though, at some point in the future, there might be a need. Right now, there is only 0.08%. If all solar farms that we have either approved or proposed were to be built, it would only be 0.08% of our total, county's total farmland. So it's a very low number right now. The best way to do that, and it's probably not a popular opinion, would be through comprehensive planning, addressing those type of issues. Our current comprehensive plan does not mention anything at all about solar farm development or any other renewables. But some type of plan, it would be my recommendation that we would send that issue to the Regional Planning Commission to be discussed.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dell, did you send that to the state's attorney's office, your memo? Just as
I did, yeah. And they said it was a very good explanation.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that that was said.
I did. Mr. Coughlin said, by all means, hand it out. So.
Okay. Okay. Anyone have any questions on that topic? Okay, Mr. Miller.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to share some information that I've gathered from other counties in this northern part of the state. Livingston County is considering a moratorium on solar development to allow the county to review their comprehensive plan. Will County is looking at an acreage cap. They're looking at somewhere around 3%. DeKalb County imposed an acre restriction on solar development back in September. 12,000 acre cap was put in place to allow the county to review their solar ordinance. Lee County imposed a moratorium on wind and solar developments to allow the board to review its ordinances. They discussed a cap, but have not put one in place yet. In LaSalle County, the LaSalle County Farm Bureau has a policy to oppose any solar project where the LISA score is above 200. The idea is to avoid putting solar developments on highly productive soils. The Kankakee County Farm Bureau does not have such a policy. Other things to point out, agriculture in Kankakee County is very important. We rank #1 in other crops and hay in 102 counties in the state of Illinois. That other crops and hay, I should specify, includes field-grown herbs, Kankakee County ranks number 2 in the state for production of specialty crops such as vegetables, melons, and potatoes. Kankakee County ranks number 6 in the state for nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod production. The county ranks 8th in the state for poultry and egg production. As far as the state of Illinois goes, our state ranks number 1 in soybean production. The state of Illinois ranks number 2 in corn production. And we want to make sure that Kankakee County remains a contributor to the state's agricultural successes. So I think that's maybe where some of this thought is coming from when we see farmland being removed from production. You know, there's discussion that maybe the land isn't removed forever from agricultural production, but if these sites are close to substations, the idea is probably they're going to be renewed for solar development, being in close proximity to solar, close proximity to the substations. And even if they do return to agricultural production, these agreements are 20, 30 plus years. So effectively that does remove farmland for a generation at least. But I do understand concerns for energy production, but also concerns for food production, but also concerns for property rights. So all these things must be taken into consideration, but we want to make sure Kankakee County remains a vibrant agricultural industrial community. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Miller. Can anyone else have anything? Oh, Mr. Snipes, okay.
As an individual whose family has a farm and we're growing corn this year, and on the 11 acres we're growing hay, I do appreciate that. That's probably why I asked the question in PZ, how much land has been consumed, and that was conveyed back less than 1% or 0.8. So I think we have the best of both worlds in that we continue to be a strong agriculture state, but at the same time, we are able to accommodate clean energy on the other hand. So certainly we haven't seen anything that raised our eyebrows, but we do keep a eagle eye on, you know, ensuring that we have a lot of land to grow our crops and to continue to be competitive. And I don't think that the less than 1% has jarred that any. So this is why we look and we peruse through these documents to ensure the concerns of both those individuals that are in clean energy and yet those individuals that are in agriculture and others as well. So just a note of reference.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anyone else? Barring none, let's go to a vote. Can we have a motion and a second on the floor?
We do.
I thought, oh no, we don't. Okay, sorry.
No, this was just for discussion.
I'm going through my notes from the last one. Go ahead, Del.
It was just for discussion.
Okay.
So we will likely put it on a planning commission agenda for further discussion.
Also, Chad, I wanted to mention one thing is when I was on the zoning board, I used to go walk the sites for these things, and they don't use their best land when they use these, kicking rocks and sand and grit and grime, and that old strip pit area out there is all rock and just, I don't know how they even plow it sometimes when I walk through it. And there's a couple of the ones that have been out there for a little bit yet, so. Okay, thanks. Okay, under old business. Anybody have any old business? No? Oh, Mr. Wheeler?
New. I thought Ben was going to be here today to talk about this, but I got a call a couple of years ago. River Valley Metro submitted for a grant to study our two systems, the Showbus County Rural Transit System and River Valley Metro, to look for synergies. There he is.
Mr. Ben.
So he can better explain what that does as far as the two transit systems, whether they should look at working together. And I'll just let him.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is as we meet as an MPO, and Chairman Wheeler's been in charge of the MPO now for, I think he's on his second term of running the MPO, we always kind of look at, you know, the tasks that the staff gets is how do we make synergies, how do we make things better, how do we look at everything we offer. And so Chairman Wheeler kind of directed, what does transit look like? We have an urban system, they're an urban district, we have a rural transit district, or transit system that's run by the county. Is there some synergies within our system? Is there some things that make sense? And there are outside firms that do this study, right? So it's about how do you find funds, how do you put funds together. And recently River Valley Metro was afforded some funds to do a full study, and not that necessarily anything will change, but we feel like as we look at our systems as a whole, can we fuel together? Can we work on buses together? Can we store together? Can we do all sorts of things together? The routes, as we look at our system, if you're an urban route, you have to end or land in the urban area, or begin or end in the urban area. If you're in a rural route, you have to be in the rural area at the start or finish. You can't do urban to urban in the rural system. So there's some limitations within the overall system. So there's always going to be some separation in that. But it becomes, how do we kind of at the staff level look at our system to make sure that we're doing the best possible to use the taxpayers' dollars in the best way to get the best service for our residents. And so that if that becomes the new transfer station here at that River Valley Metro received their funds for, where we can bring our buses into that system, allow people to travel within the community, avoid that kind of point-to-point route, if that makes sense. So it's a kind of a greater overarching look at how our systems can coordinate and see if there are some efficiencies or redundancies that maybe could be removed as part of that. So River Valley Metro will select a consultant using kind of IDOT procurement. They'll go through the plan and kind of see what that really looks like, and really give us then some guidance at the staff level we can bring back through the chairman's office to you to say, as we're spending our dollars on transit, here's maybe a way to save some money or a way to offer some better services as it relates to our users. Because really what we want, I mean, a little bit of a shameless plug for rural transit. It's not just hospital visits. It's not just going to the doctor. It's going wherever you want. Any resident, you don't have to be old or infirm. Anybody who wants to ride on the bus can ride on the bus. And so it's about getting all of our residents the best possible transit system they can have. And if there are some partnerships there that are available, obviously Andy wants us out there kind of looking under all the rocks to make sure we're doing that.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Wilson. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Wilson? I'm sure we'll have this topic coming up. Oh, Mr. Snipes, go ahead.
I promise you that I'll be like Elizabeth Taylor told her ninth husband, I won't keep you long. Just want to put a little plug in that the $2 rider, it's amazing that a lot of people still don't know about it, but and they were going back and forth at Midway. When they found that out, they were like amazed. But one of the assets that we do have in our metro system is that you can go from Bobonis or Manteno to Midway and then come back. You got to plan it accordingly and then come back just for $2. So some of the things that are going right in Kankakee, among other things, is that we have things that benefit the pocketbooks of the citizens that basically live here. So just thought I'd throw that plug out there as a commercial, and now I'm done.
It's very well run. Okay, thanks. Okay, now new business. Okay, next up will be anything else in our new business? That's all. Okay, and next up, okay, Ms. Hudson makes the motion to adjourn. Ms. Peters makes the second. All in favor say aye.